Following on from our chat on Responsible Bites, I want to cover off on AI hypes. A report called Trust, Attitudes and Use of Artificial Intelligence, a global study, was released this month. And in it, it ranked Australia last out of 47 countries in believing that AI benefits outweigh the risks. Firstly, what do you think this says about Australia and Australians? Secondly, how do we make sure we have a sensible amount of skepticism, but also embrace some of the opportunities from AI?
So what I think it says about Australia is that we are a risk-averse nation. And I would say that AI is not the only example of where we are very risk-averse. So I'm not surprised that we came, what did you say, 47th on the list?
Yeah. We came last out of the 47 countries.
Yeah. Right, I see. So 47 out of 47. I'm not surprised. Australia is a very risk-averse country, which has its benefits in some ways, but it also can come with a few complications. So in the context of AI specifically, one of the issues that comes with a very risk-averse culture is that we will be slow on the uptake, but also slow on sovereign development of the capability. Now, I'm not somebody who believes that AI is the be-all and end-all and that it is a technology everybody has to adopt. And, I know that there are a lot of statistics that get thrown around. I saw one the other day and I don't know where it's from. I don't know how it was substantiated, but it was like, if you're not using AI in your workplace today, then you're losing out on 40% efficiency. I don't know where that... So these kind of numbers get thrown around. So I don't actually believe in those numbers. But what I do believe in is the opportunities that these technologies can provide. So, for example, they are used a lot for early disease diagnosis, and they're really fantastic for diagnosing quite rare diseases very early. So things like that are really positive uses of that technology, and that's something that we miss out on by not adopting it. But then the sovereign capability perspective is really where we start getting into things like national security. So if we are behind on developing our own sovereign capabilities, what ends up happening is that we have to rely on other nations for their capabilities to acquire and adopt those technologies. And that comes with a whole list of different complications.
Do you think it's ever too late to get in the sovereign development stage, or it's always a good time to start?
I don't think it's ever too late. What I will say is the infrastructure underpinning AI is enormously costly in every sense of the word. So it is costly in terms of money. It's costly in terms of the environmental footprint. It's costly in terms of the geographical footprint. So from that perspective, I think it's important for us to consider whether or not it's worth it, given the size of our nation, and whether or not we invest in the infrastructure. But what we absolutely can invest in and should invest in, and it is not too late to invest in, is building the capability and building the skill set at a national level.
And so that's an incredible suggestion, but really juxtaposed then with this idea, that many Australians believe essentially that we don't believe the benefits outweigh the risks. And another stat from that report, which was published by Melbourne University and KPMG, I'll stick a link in the notes, was that only 30% of Australians see AI as a net positive. I mean, in some ways, it's easy to see why. There's an immense amount of hype. The companies are overvalued. VC is kind of throwing, huge amounts of cash at this problem. And we're not actually seeing a lot of tangible benefits to the individual user or to companies. Everyone has an AI solution, but I mean, what actually is the AI solution kind of gets less discussion.
AI solutions to problems I didn't even know I had.
Right. But if we are to embrace some of those opportunities, exactly like you said, and as the World Economic Forum's report brought out, we're going to need to focus on a number of really specific skills and areas of job growth. I noted in there that they had things like curiosity and human-machine teaming knowledge. And so there were a whole bunch of other individual factors that they felt were really critical for improving workforce skills in AI, but kind of more broadly. Where do you think investment is most needed in Australia to improve the view of AI as a positive, where it actually is having a really incredible impact?
From my perspective, I'm going to take this just a step more granular than maybe how you asked the question. And really where we need to be investing is public education. as sophisticated as these technologies may be and with all of the benefits that they may provide, if we don't have general public education, the way that this kind of technology will be adopted and accepted by the general public is not going to be very effective. So I'm not sure how you kind of meant that question, maybe at a broader level, but as soon as you asked it, I immediately thought of that kind of general public. And the reason I think about that is I use this a lot, but I always think about my parents, right? My parents immigrated to Australia in the 70s and the 80s. English is not their first language. So I think about, if my parents were to go see a doctor and they were using some kind of AI-enabled tool, what general education have they been provided to give them trust and confidence in the use of that tool and allow them to have some level of personal security and safety in being able to say yes or no and having an educated reason for saying yes or no?